What's up, Flannelverse? It is time for Sunday Night Football. We've got the Packers at the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers revenge game. Should be a fun one. Might be a fun one. I don't know. Steelers defense pretty bad. Packers defense not as good recently as it used to be. Could be a fun game. We'll see. I'm going to be going position by position, starting with quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. At the end, I will be running the Sims. Actually, I think I'm going to run the Sims again right now. I think I like this format better when I just run the Sims right away. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to just run it real quick before we get started, and then I'll get into the quarterbacks. Should be a good slate though. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of that jazz. Oh, and I got to look at how many lineups I'm actually playing. But I'll be looking at usage trends, defensive matchups, all that good stuff as usual. Talk about some of the coach speak. I'm not sure what to do with Darnell Mooney yet. I cannot figure out. If any of you, here's a task for anybody who's good at looking this stuff up, because I asked all my football guys, the guys who like dig into these stats pretty intensely. I asked them, where can I find how often a defense runs 4-3 as their defense? And nobody could tell me where you can find that stuff. So that is apparently something that is more difficult to find than a lot of other stuff. But that's really impactful on how much the Steelers will run out Darnell Washington. Is apparently he is their big body that they want when they face 4-3 defenses. The best that I could find for that is I couldn't find it anywhere in stats anywhere. I asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT said, based on some like things that have been written on ESPN, they've changed their base defense to 4-3 this year. The Packers have. However, they haven't actually used it that much. So I don't know what the takeaway is there. If anybody has a good takeaway on how often they're actually going to run 4-3, how much we can expect Darnell Washington to play, that seems kind of impactful. And it's something that I really wanted to find more information on, but could not do so. Appreciate you guys showing up every Monday, Thursday, Sunday. I enjoy doing this quite a bit. And couldn't do it without you guys being here. So really appreciate all of you showing up for me. And of course, I love breaking this stuff down. I love playing Showdown NFL DFS. But we'll start with quarterbacks. And actually, I'll just pull up my article here to talk about Aaron Rodgers again in a revenge game with the Packers. And then, of course, you've got Jordan Love on the other side in what historically, we fear the Steelers defense, not so much right now. Steelers defense has allowed the fourth most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to quarterbacks over the past 5 weeks. So really nice matchup for Jordan Love. Steelers defense has also allowed the sixth most schedule adjusted fantasy points per game to quarterbacks over the past 5 weeks. Steelers just 22nd in terms of pass rate over expectation. Packers just 19th. So both these teams lean, slightly, I guess, slightly more run heavy, but pretty neutral in terms of their pass rate over expectation. But nice matchups for both. Again, and this is free. If you want to look at the schedule adjusted page at Fantasy Points, just go to fantasypoints.com. It's under the research tab. You can find it there, and it's free. And you can look over the last 5 weeks matchup with quarterbacks. Strong one for Aaron Rodgers, stronger one for Jordan Love. So the matchups are great. They're both going to be highly owned, as quarterbacks usually are. Let me see if this is updated. Okay, we're getting there. I'll take a look at the Roto Grinders projected ownership here. So Captain Roto Grinders has Jordan Love at about 10% projected ownership, and Aaron Rodgers at 2% projected captain ownership. In the flex, Jordan Love 69%. That's pretty nice. And then Aaron Rodgers 58%. What I'm seeing here is Aaron Rodgers at 2% captain ownership would be fantastic. I'm not a huge fan of playing like pocket passing quarterbacks in the captain spot generally, but if we are going to get Aaron Rodgers that low owned, I mean, we know that Aaron Rodgers can throw for 300 yards and multiple passing touchdowns and spread the ball around quite a bit. So yeah, I'll like Aaron Rodgers at captain. Yeah, sorry to hear that you're losing heart on DFS, Perry. It's tough. I don't think any of it is rigged. I get with the Chauncey Billups stuff this week, how we might, and Terry Rozier actually more so, how you might start thinking that. And yeah, obviously some of that stuff goes on, but I think generally just sports are dramatic. Things don't always go the way we want them to. I don't actually think it's rigged that often. But anyway, uh, Aaron Rodgers, 2% cap ownership stands out to me. That's too low for Aaron Rodgers. 58% flex ownership. I guess I'd be fine with it. There are some other spots that I like a little bit better. Honestly, there's not that many spots that I really love on this slate as far as spend ups. We'll talk about Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs, some of the others, but we don't actually have that many that look that strong. So I'm surprised that Aaron Rodgers only projected for 2% cap ownership. I would imagine I'm going to want more than that. We'll see what the Sims give me. I actually don't know what the projected ownership is in Run the Sims. That is obviously going to be impactful. But generally, 2% cap ownership. Aaron Rodgers, sign me up. 58% in the flex, not quite as enticing, but I imagine I'll have over 50% of Aaron Rodgers, over 50% of Jordan Love. That's kind of all I care about. I'm not going to take a huge stand, I think, one way or the other. I want to have, I think, at least 50%. I don't want 100% of either of them. If I have either of them in my lineup, I want them to be stacked. I think I would require it if I were using an optimizer. Using the Sims, I'm not going to tell the Sims what to do. If I get to either of them naked, I will accept that lineup. But if I were using an optimizer, I would require a stack with either one of them. And I think you can include the running backs in that. And then if I have either of them at captain, I would prefer to have multiple pass catchers in the flex. I think that's it as far as neither of them runs that much as a takeaway. So I think that is it as far as the quarterbacks go. Looks like we are almost ready to take a look at what my exposures are right now. But I will move on to running backs, see if you guys have any questions. Bijan and Mooney killed me also. I feel like I got a lot right on this slate. I mean, primarily Breece Hall. Breece Hall was my favorite, one of my favorite plays. I shouldn't call my favorite play of the slate, but I loved Breece Hall today. That went really well, but I had 79% Bijan Robinson, which wasn't even really intentional. That was pretty brutal. Is this content here for mostly tournaments, or you touch on both? Yeah, this is for tournaments, or I play tournaments. So like the advice that I give is generally geared towards tournaments. If you have questions about things like cash games, I mean, cash games is tough. I don't really play Showdown Cash DFS, so honestly, I probably wouldn't give great cash game advice. Like typically, I'm just, as a cash game player, run your optimizer, take your favorite of like one of the top lineups in the optimizer, top projected lineups. So actually, I was going to say you could ask me for cash game advice, but for Showdown, I actually don't think that I have great cash game advice. I'm not sure what happened here. It looks like it. I'm going to give this a minute to see if this. It looks like it timed out, but I'm not getting any kind of error message. So I will continue on to the running backs, and again, we'll take a look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed over the past 5 games. For the Packers, it is a fairly strong matchup. Let's see, 9th best matchup for running backs over the past 5 games. That is more so through the air. It's actually slightly negative on the ground, but positive through the air. Overall, though, like pretty neutral, not that far off from neutral over the past 5 weeks. And then for the Steelers against running backs, again, slightly negative, negative 2.1. So not a great matchup for Steelers running backs, but honestly not as bad as this matchup was early in the season. It looked like the Packers are just going to be destroying teams on defense, and that has not been the case. I think I need to refresh this. So let me rerun these, and then I'll keep going. But with all that said, I mean, Josh Jacobs is, I think, probably one of my top 2 favorite plays on the slate, which I don't think should be a hot take. He just has a great workload, nice matchup with the Steelers. Not much to not love about Josh Jacobs in this matchup. Right, let me do this again. I'm guessing that's because they're updating for inactives as I'm running it. Might cause issues. I looked for let's see. Yes, Matt asks, are you specifically looking for percentage of 4 down linemen for the Green Bay defense, or specifically 4-3 only, being exactly 4 defensive linemen and 3 linebackers, which some refer to as base because 4 defensive line with 2 linebackers. I believe specifically 4-3, not dime. I believe. I mean, it. Matt, I'm sure you've read or you might remember the coach speak about they use Darnell Washington specifically when they're facing 4-3 defenses because they want to get a big body out there to match the linebackers. So I believe that he means specifically 4-3. So yeah, if you could look that up. Holy shit, RJ Harvey 3 touchdowns. That is good for my best ball bags. I also played a lot of J.K. Dobbins in DFS. So yeah, that's I mean, I don't think many people played. I think he was 0.5% owned in the tournament I looked at, so doesn't affect things that much, most likely. Do I think Roto-Grinders will update their ownership percentage for Showdown slate one more time? Possibly, just after inactives come out. I don't know if they do another one after inactives. I assume that Run the Sims will also after the update for inactives. Let me take a look at the make sure I didn't miss anything. I tried looking for Steelers inactives. I looked at Packers and saw Matthew Golden is active. I did not see what was this touchdown for RJ Harvey? Was it a long one? Was it a fun one? Okay, nothing impactful. Scotty Miller is inactive for the Steelers. I don't think we're playing Scotty Miller anyway, so I don't believe that's impactful on us at all. Okay. So yeah, we'll get to the tight ends, the base defense for the Packers, or how often they actually play 4-3 might be impactful on how much Darnell Washington plays. But we'll talk about that once we get to the tight ends. As far as running backs go, Josh Jacobs projected for just 27% flex ownership and 15% captain ownership. I would want to be over on both of those numbers. I think Josh Jacobs, one of the surest things here. And again, these teams tend to run slightly more, like they prefer running over passing generally. Josh Jacobs' workload is fantastic. I'll pull that up. The bell cow report. But he's just getting the vast majority of the rushing work for the Packers. They've played 6 games so far, 111 rush attempts. So that's just under 19 per game. 20 targets in those 6 games, 43.7% route participation. Just great workload for Josh Jacobs. Now gets a great matchup with the Steelers, which again, it is better for running backs through the air, and he's obviously not as involved through the air as some running backs are. But I think generally just a positive matchup in a game that the Packers should. I mean, they're favored to win. I guess it is in Pittsburgh, so they're certainly no guarantee, but they are favored to win the game. And I think he should just have great work here. He is expensive. That's the only tough thing is he's 16,500 in the captain spot, so a little bit tougher to get there. I'm actually more surprised that he's not getting more than 27% ownership in the flex. I think it is because this is in some ways similar to the San Francisco Atlanta showdown in that there's no great value. There's you can go to the kickers and the defenses. You've got the tight ends on the Steelers are kind of cheap, but we don't have any $800 plays that look great or $1,600 plays even. It's sort of tough value on this slate. Maybe as we go through the positions, I'll find somebody else that I missed earlier, but I didn't really find anybody who's a great value on this slate, which does make it a little bit tougher to get to Josh Jacobs because it's going to be tough to get to Josh Jacobs plus 2 quarterbacks or something, Josh Jacobs plus Tucker Kraft and a quarterback might be possible, but it's you do have to make sacrifices to get there, which makes it a little bit tougher. But I still think Josh Jacobs, a player to prioritize and just kind of get uncomfortable with some of the value there. Has CeeDee Lamb done anything? I see Ferguson has done nothing. CeeDee Lamb is the one I need to do something for my eliminator team. I'm right neck and neck with the guy that I'm facing, and I will be done after CeeDee Lamb. So I need him to do something here in the fourth quarter. Beyond Josh Jacobs, I mean, it's sort of tough to get to any other running backs on the Packers. Emmanuel Wilson, and maybe now I can, let's see. They had their bye week in week 5. Let's just look at since week 5. That'll be probably more telling of what the current workload looks like for Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks. So since week 5, 9 carries for Emmanuel Wilson, 1 for Chris Brooks. 1 target for Chris Brooks, 2 for Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson, 21.5% route participation. So it does appear like Emmanuel Wilson, like the clear RB2 here. And he is, let's see, 3,400, projected for 8% ownership. I don't hate it. I actually think that's kind of a strong play on a slate where we are lacking for much great value. I think you can do worse than 3,400 Emmanuel Wilson. Like that is some standalone value. 9 carries and a target and 21% route participation. Like you get a slight boost, and that's looking pretty good for 3,400. But then obviously he has awesome contingent upside in the case of an injury. And then or just like a blowout, maybe he would. I guess it's probably more likely to be Chris Brooks if there were a blowout. So I don't know at what point Emmanuel Wilson would also get pulled, but he at least has the, if anything were to happen to Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson likely next man up, and he has some standalone value. So at 8% ownership, I think that's a pretty viable play. And then beyond Emmanuel Wilson, I mean, Chris Brooks, like I said, probably he's 2,400. That's a little bit tough. Probably does have the like blowout run if it got there, and he's only getting 0.5% ownership. So yeah, you can mix him in a 150 set. I would not get there in 20 lineups. I might get to like a share of Emmanuel Wilson, a share or two in 20 lineups. I think that he is viable enough to get there that early, but Chris Brooks would be more like a 150 set play. But yeah, Josh Jacobs, obviously the headliner, the one that I want to be above weight at those ownership numbers. We'll see what the Run the Sims ownership projections are. I didn't bother looking at that before I started this. On the other side, we have the Steelers, and they also are a little bit difficult. So they also had their bye in week 5. So I guess we can just look. So they had week 4. Kenneth Gainwell had an awesome game with Jalen Warren out. You may recall that was the London game against my Vikings, RIP. Week 5, they had their bye, and then Jalen Warren returned in week 6. So we can see what's happened since Jalen Warren returned in week 6. They played 2 games. Jalen Warren, 27 carries, 7 targets on 36.4% route participation. Kenneth Gainwell, 9 carries, 8 targets on 40.9% route participation. So has retained somewhat of a role in those games. But I want to look at week 7 specifically now. So overall, 9 carries, 8 targets for Kenneth Gainwell. I feel like he lost more of that role in week 7, but I want to fact check myself on that. Three carries and 2 targets, but still 40% route participation. So not nothing for Kenneth Gainwell. Jalen Warren was looking really good in that game also in week 7. I forget who they were playing. I know I was watching the game. And Warren was looking good out there. They were using him pretty significantly. But Kenneth Gainwell did still have, 3 carries, but that could easily, spike up to 7, and it wouldn't be surprising. And then 2 targets, but 40% route participation, I think sort of indicates that he could have had a few more. If things just kind of broke differently, that 40% route participation at least is pretty strong, and we know he's a capable pass catcher. So I wouldn't say that he has totally lost his role. I think that he did kind of earn more of a role after that really strong week 4 outing. But Jalen Warren, also really strong workload here. 16 carries in the last game, 5 targets on 37.1% route participation. I think this is close to the ceiling for Jalen Warren's role. I don't think that they're going to try to get him that much more involved, but this is a really strong role. 5 targets and 16 carries. We'll take that all day. All right. Let me take a look at the numbers here. First, I'll look at Roto Grinders, then I'm going to go back and look at my stuff in Run the Sims. So starting with captain, Jalen Warren projected for 11% captain ownership at Roto Grinders. Kenneth Gainwell, 4%. In the flex, Jalen Warren, 23.5% flex ownership. That seems pretty nice at just, I guess he's 9,600. And then Kenneth Gainwell, 17% ownership at 3,000. Looks pretty nice to me. I actually really like that as a value. Run the Sims, I want to look at what their inputs are. Oh, and I guess I can just let me just go to my player exposures. So first of all, I'm just going to just read off what happened in this run of the Sims for the quarterbacks. They have Jordan Love projected for 57% flex, 15% captain. I got to, with those numbers, 37% flex, 31.5% captain. So way over at captain, way under at flex. Kind of interesting. And then Aaron Rodgers, they have at 42% flex, 7% captain. I got to 45% flex, 17% captain. So overweight on Aaron Rodgers in both spots using their projected ownership. But moving on to running backs where we are now, I just went over the Packers. Josh Jacobs projected for, so they have him higher owned, 37% flex, 21% captain ownership. I, with those numbers, got to 50% flex, 8.5% captain. So actually underweight a captain when you use that 21% projected ownership. And then Emmanuel Wilson at 3,400, I got 19% projected flex ownership. I got to just 4%. Chris Brooks at 2,400, 1% projected flex ownership. I didn't get to any. So that's what happened with the Packers. On the Steelers side, Jalen Warren at 9,600 projected for 36% flex ownership, 14% captain ownership. I got to 49% flex, 9 at captain. So a little bit overweight in the flex, underweight at captain for Jalen Warren. I think that makes sense. And then Kenneth Gainwell, yeah, they love Kenneth Gainwell, even with the 42% flex ownership, which again, RotoGrinders had it at like 17% flex ownership. With Run the Sims, 42% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. I still got to 49% flex and 3% captain, which I think just goes to show how strong of a play he is. And if the ownership does come in any like lower than this, closer to the RotoGrinders numbers, he would look great with his current workload. I will say we're sort of trying to read the tea leaves with his workload recently, because it was a lot stronger 2 games ago than the last game. If you go back to 2 games ago, like he looks awesome. If he just gets the 2 carries or 3 carries and 2 targets, like that's even at 3,000, that's a little bit tough to pay it off. But if it's somewhere in the middle, like I think he's got a strong enough workload. So yeah, I think Kenneth Gainwell looks great. Jalen Warren looks like a fairly strong play. And yeah, absolutely, you can play both Steelers running backs together. Hope that this is a game where, they just dominate on the ground, keep it going on the ground. But even if that isn't the case, they can both just pay it off just from, each scoring a touchdown in a game, in a close game is certainly viable, especially with not a ton of great value. And Kenneth Gainwell, I think, might be, yeah, I mean, he makes for one of the best value plays on the slate. So yeah, I think you can play them both together. Obviously, I like Kenneth Gainwell a lot better at 17% ownership than 42%, because I do think there is a wide range of outcomes. I'm actually surprised to see how much I got using these ownership numbers that I got over the field on Kenneth Gainwell. But I think he's a strong play, and I think this is actually higher than I would expect for Kenneth Gainwell. I probably won't change it because I don't think I want to get even more than what I'm getting to right now. But yeah, I think he's a fairly strong play. And then I didn't get to any Caleb Johnson, 400 projected for 1% flex ownership. Did not get an offensive snap, or at least didn't get any work last week. I think that's it as far as the running backs go. Might be wide receiver captain night, low scoring game, could be. The wide receivers are a little bit difficult to parse tonight, so we will do our best, because we have Christian Watson returning for the Packers for his first game of the year, which nobody expected him to come back this early, but he is coming back. And then we have Calvin Austin returning for the Steelers after being out a few games. All right, Matt, appreciate you. Let me read this. Matt says Green Bay has used base personnel on 25.4% of defensive snaps, using 4-3 on 13.2% of defensive snaps, and 3-4 on 12.2%, which Washington should be on the field too, since it's more about matching 7 big bodies. Okay. So about 25% of their snaps they're using the 7 big bodies. Okay, that's a good note. We'll keep that in mind for later when I read about Darnell Washington. But it actually, I think, also might affect the receivers. It might affect how much work we can expect for the Steelers receivers as well. I also don't know how much that is relative to other teams. Like, is that a lot of 3-4 and 4-3? I think it is. I think teams don't use a ton. So that's just extra work for Darnell Mooney. But I don't really know how often teams are running it. Is Watson the player pool on FanDuel? I do not know. I think I don't know. Maybe somebody in chat can answer that. We can look later, but I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, so wide receivers. I guess we can start with the Steeler side. I think DK Metcalf is the easiest wide receiver to break down on this one. I mean, he's 9,400 projected for 27% flex ownership, 8% captain ownership. With those projected ownership numbers, I got to 42% in the flex, 20% at captain. Don't mind that at all. I think he's one of the surest things of the pay up options. I think DK Metcalf looks great. It's actually been a strong matchup recently for receivers against Green Bay. It is the sixth best matchup in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. So yeah, I think DK Metcalf looks like a really strong captain play. Now his workload for a top receiver, he actually doesn't have that great of a workload. Let me pull it up. I want to say 37 targets in 6 games. Could that be right? That seems so low, but that might be right. Yeah, 37 targets in 6 games. So that's just over 6 targets per game. So, like, on the one hand, he is leading the team pretty significantly with 37 targets. But on the other hand, it's just over 6 targets per game, which is not that much for an alpha receiver. A lot of top dogs are getting, 9, 10, 11, 12 targets per game. So to just get six, like this would be a number two receiver on, I think, most NFL teams would be my guess. So yeah, strong workload relative to other Steelers, but honestly not that great of a workload. 87% route participation for DK Metcalf. But again, it's a nice matchup with the Packers. And we don't have that many great pay up options. So I think DK Metcalf is going to be one of my favorites. As you see here, I got to 62% with 20% of captain. I'm fine with that. I'm fine being well over the field on DK Metcalf. Yeah, I don't think I'll have an issue with that. We'll see once I get to. I also really like Tucker Craft, even not factoring in the National Tight End Week. I would already like Tucker Craft quite a bit, so we'll see. I'm guessing I'm actually not getting that much based on how much I'm getting to of Jacobs and Metcalf and the quarterbacks, but we'll see once we get to tight ends. I might cut back on this to get more Craft, but I like DK Metcalf quite a bit. Um, Calvin Austin, like I said, is returning, and here, let's take a look at the route share report. What's going on? So Calvin Austin played the first 4 weeks, 74%, 87%, 71%, 64% route participation. Then they had the bye, and he has missed the last 2 games. As far as I can tell, he's coming back to a full workload. So probably somewhere in the like 75% ish route participation range for Calvin Austin. Um, the wide receiver two on the Steelers. Now that could be impacted by how much they run the tight ends. Like if they think they found something with running Darnell Mooney, Jonnu Smith, Pat Fryermuth as much as they have, these guys have been getting pretty great work, and as a result, the running back two on the Steelers hasn't really been getting much work. You can see Roman Wilson has been the running back, or sorry, the wide receiver two here, 26% route participation. I guess it was Scott Miller, 48% in week 6, and then in week 7 it was 51% Roman Wilson, and none of the other receivers really getting much work. So it's possible that they just want to use the tight ends more, and they're just not going to have a true wide receiver two. I think it's more likely that Calvin Austin does come back, north of 50% route participation, because I think they trust him more than they trust Roman Wilson, Scott Miller, Ben Skowronek. Like I just think it's the names here are probably the reason that they're not using receivers more. And then they could cut into the Calvin Austin's return could cut into the tight ends here, but honestly, I don't have a strong read on it. I didn't find anything in the coach speak, suggesting like, hey, we're getting Calvin Austin back. We're gonna, get him right back into his old role, or we're happy with how things are going with the tight ends. We're done using a tight end or a wide receiver two as much. I mean, Ben Skowronek or Roman Wilson, I think both are kind of thin here. Okay, just tweeted you the numbers for all NFL team usage on base personnel of defense. Green Bay is above average. All right, about average. Okay, cool. Thanks, Matt. I'll take a look at that. Um, so it's tough to break down the Steelers without knowing more about what are they going to do with Calvin Austin back. Like, are they just gonna stay away from receivers, or was it just really like they didn't trust these other receivers? So now with Calvin Austin back, they're going to go back to what they had been doing earlier, which would be, negative for the tight ends. Ultimately, I think Kelvin Austin, I mean, it's going to come down to the ownership on Kelvin Austin, projecting for 13% flex, 1% captain. He's kind of expensive at 5,800. I got to 13%. So I'm right with the field. I think that seems fine to me. I don't have a great take on Kelvin Austin. Again, I think it's possible that he's running. My guess is that he's running, 60 to 70% route participation, but there's obviously room for more. There's also a lot of room for less if they want to keep running with the three tight ends. I guess another question is, what are the Steelers? How have they been doing the past couple weeks? I feel like they've been doing well, but now I'm going to look up their box scores, because like if it's working with the tight ends, they would be. Oh, they lost to the Bengals. Yeesh, that's not good. All right, they did beat the Browns, so they beat the Browns and they lost to the Bengals. So I don't know what the takeaway is there. They scored a lot of points on the Bengals, as does everybody. Um, so yeah, I don't have a totally great read on what to expect from the Steelers pass catchers with Kelvin Austin returning. My best guess is that they go back to the role that he had before and he cuts into the tight ends a little bit. And then Roman Wilson, I mean, I think all of the other, like Roman Wilson at 3,200, I guess he would be the one that I would play if I were going to play one of these other receivers for the Steelers, but I don't think you really need to. I don't think I would have Roman Wilson in a 20 lineup set. I think he's more like a 150 lineup play, because I think they like DK Metcalf. They might like Kelvin Austin, and I think they like their tight end. So I don't really think the wide receiver, three on the Steelers is worth much. Obviously, could just have a random, touchdown on a trick play or something, and Roman Wilson more likely to have that than Ben Skowronek. So I think Roman Wilson would be my favorite of the non DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, but I don't really love any of the other Steelers receivers. I think just kind of a 150 set, mix him in, because even a touchdown at 3,200 might not pay it off for Roman Wilson. And we do have some other pretty strong, low priced options in Kenneth Gainwell and the tight ends. On the Packers side, again, a little bit muddled here because we have Christian Watson back, and he is all indications are that he is going to be limited. To what extent is he going to be limited? I don't really know. I think we'd all just be guessing. I don't think we got any kind of like snap count or something that we're expecting for Christian Watson. So we'll start with Romeo Doubs. I don't think the role changes for Romeo Doubs at all. He's 7,600 projected for 37% flex ownership, 12% captain ownership. With those numbers, I got to 24% in the flex, 2% of captain. So pretty well under the field on Romeo Doubs. Maybe lose, maybe because Christian Watson, a talented receiver, could cut into the target share of Romeo Doubs a bit. But I think Romeo Doubs is just, we've seen it before. Romeo Doubs with Christian Watson. We've seen it with Matthew Golden. The role kind of stays the same. You're hoping for touchdowns with Romeo Doubs on the season to this point. Actually, I'll pull it up in the advanced receiving. Romeo Doubs, 36 targets. So, DK Metcalf has one more target than Romeo Doubs on the season. So neither of them like true alphas in the sense of getting like double-digit targets, but 36 targets on 77% route participation for Romeo Doubs, leads the team in terms of end zone targets with 5 by kind of a significant margin, leads the team there. I think Romeo Doubs is a fine play at 7,600. Like he's fairly cheap for a top receiver, but also like doesn't actually have the role of a top receiver. At least like the target share is not as high. It is the second best matchup for receivers in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. And we can actually take a look at, I didn't look at the coverage matchup stuff. Let's take a look at that. Starting with the Steelers, I mean, nice coverage grade here for DK Metcalf. Nice coverage grade for Romeo Doubs also. So, Doubs looks like a strong play. I think he's the safest of the receivers on the Packers. Then you got Matthew Golden, is 7,000. Let me take a look at the route share report for Golden. He was questionable coming in. He is playing though, so I think he is a full go. The biggest threat to Matthew Golden, I would think, would be Christian Watson. So Matthew Golden, um, we have kind of seen his route participation come up. I don't know. It hasn't come up that much, but up from week one, 52%, up to 65%, week two, 74%, down to 65%, stays at 66% week six, and then up to 76% in week seven, which was his highest of the season. So I guess that's positive that his most recent game was his highest route participation, but didn't see like any kind of massive post buy rookie bump or anything like that. There has been some fairly positive coach speak on Matthew Golden. So let me read off some Matthew Golden propaganda, because if the coaches are saying they want to get him more involved, that is at least a positive. Let's see. Well, let's see. On October 12th, in the post game presser on whether it's LaFleur's plan to use Matthew Golden more in the future, given Golden's performance that day, he said, "It just is what it is, guys. I know everybody wants us to force feed guys the ball, but that's really not how we've done it around here, and I don't plan on changing that." So I guess that is not bullish at all. But then on the 12th interview with the team media, he said on Matthew Golden, "We got to continue to find ways to get him the football." So they're not forcing the football, but they are trying to find ways to get him the football. On the 13th, head coach Matt LaFleur said, "I think Matthew Golden has made a lot of strides. I really do. Those were some big time plays he made yesterday. I think he's competing more and more with his blocking in the run game. I'm really excited about where he's going and where he could go. And I think he'll continue to get there because the guy approaches the game the right way." Um, Anything more recent? Just scrolling a little. A lot of positive coach speak on Christian Watson, by the way, too. In here, it's a lot of Christian Watson is a rare breed. A lot of really positive stuff. But I don't know. I don't know how much Christian Watson, if at all, he will cut into Matthew Golden. Dontavian Wicks is out. Maybe Christian Watson, like maybe being limited, just means that he like takes up the workload of Dontavian Wicks and Malik Heath. I suspect Matthew Golden retains, 65 to 75% route participation, like he has had. It's kind of difficult to guess if Christian Watson's going to jump in and take more of that work. But that would be my guess, is that he's going to retain the work he has had. I think Matthew Golden has been kind of the wide receiver two here. And they have other receivers. Again, Wicks is out. And then why not just give the work of Malik Heath to Christian Watson, some of the other receivers there. So I suspect that Matthew Golden is going to retain his work, and it's not actually going to be a huge, at least in terms of like route participation, and a huge dock on Matthew Golden to have Christian Watson back, but it could impact his target share if Christian Watson is actually ready to go. See, just over the past 2 weeks, Matthew Golden, 9 targets on 71% route participation. You can hope for one of those long balls. I don't think we've seen it hit yet. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe he has hit on one, but I feel like he's had a lot of like near hits on long balls. And to the extent I've been paying attention, I don't think that Matthew Golden has had any of those hit. But 9 targets the past 2 weeks, 71% route participation. I think he's fine. He's a little bit too expensive here at 7,000. Project for 29% flex ownership, 5% captain. I got to 16%. I think that's about where I'd want to be. Like I'd want to be under the field if Matthew Golden comes in at 34% ownership. Christian Watson, 6,400 projected for 7% ownership. I got to 0 of it. If you want to take a shot on Christian Watson, I think he's fine in a 150 set. Would not make it into my first 20 lineups. Matthew Golden probably makes it into a couple of my first 20 lineups, but I would be under the field there. And then you've got Savion Williams, 2,000 projected for 5% flex ownership. I got to 12%. I need to look into that more. Why did I get to 12% Savion Williams? Malik Heath, 2,800. I got to 1% at 3.5% projected ownership. Let me look at Savion Williams inputs. All right, 3% rushing market share for Savion Williams on top of the 4.6% receiving market share. Makes sense to get to a bit there. That's 2% more than I would have guessed. Okay, that's good to know. He is they have been using him kind of as the way that we thought they might coming into the season, that they would potentially use him as I believe Derek Brown called him a Debo light. Good to see that they're actually using Savion Williams that way, but kind of surprised that I'm getting to 12% at 5% projected ownership. but looks good to me. Has a role there, can get kind of that sneaky end around touchdown in the red zone. Used somewhat as a receiver, somewhat as a running back, kind of the hybrid play that can work out from time to time. So as far as the Packers receivers go, Dobbs the safest. I'd say Golden the second safest, and probably my second favorite of the group. Watson just a largest field dart throw. And then Savion actually looks pretty good in the Sims, even at 5% ownership. That's I didn't think he would look this good, and I didn't think I'd get to 12%, but tough to argue. A guy that has a role where he gets involved multiple ways. I'm not gonna fight getting to some Savion Williams, especially on a slate where we are kind of trying to find value anywhere we can. All right, the tight ends. So we'll start with Tucker Craft. And again, it is National Tight End Week in case anybody missed that. Tight ends have actually had a fairly nice day. I don't think we've seen tight ends really kicking ass today, but they have been kind of scoring a lot of touchdowns, doing what they were supposed to. I think we've seen multiple with like two different tight ends score touchdowns on the same team, like George Kittle and Jake Tonjes. I feel like there might have been another one, maybe not, but Tucker Craft, 8,400, projected for 32% flex ownership, 12% captain ownership. I got to 21% flex, 4% captain. I want more than this. I think this is one where I'm going to IKB it onto a bit more of Tucker Craft. It's a great matchup in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed in the past 5 weeks. It is the third best matchup for tight ends against Pittsburgh. I think Kraft is talented. I think he is one of the more trustworthy pass catchers on the Packers. I guess he's projected for a lot of ownership here, and he's expensive. He's more than the other receiver. So I guess I kind of see why I'm not getting to a ton of Tucker Craft. I'll probably just IKB to a little bit more than I'm getting to right now. I would want to just IKB to more at captain in particular, and hope that he gets that. I think he's like live for the 100 yards and a touchdown kind of game. Um, I don't think there is a way to, or maybe I can with the filters, force more at captain only, but I'm going to try to get to more Tucker Craft. I think he is a fairly strong play, has a great role. But I guess the Sims just believe in Luke Musgrave for the tight end week narrative. Luke Musgrave, 1,600 projected for 9% flex ownership. I got to 30% Luke Musgrave. I did not see that coming. He is up to 34% and 39% route participation the past 2 weeks. So fairly strong usage for a tight end two for Luke Musgrave, and again has that great matchup with the Steelers. It's possible that the return of Christian Watson cuts into Luke a little bit. I think it would cut into him more so than Tucker Craft if it were going to cut into anybody. But I think it's more likely that Christian Watson, again, he's limited, so we don't even expect him to run that many routes. I think you can just take it from Dontavian Wicks and Malik Heath. So I think I'm okay with getting a lot of Luke Musgrave at 1,600. I think he's a fairly strong play and not projected for a ton of ownership, 9% ownership. So yeah, I kind of like getting there on Luke Musgrave. John Fitzpatrick, I got to 3.8% at 3.6% projected ownership. Again, has been running some routes 15, 16% and 21% over the past couple weeks. I think that looks okay. Also, again, a slate where we are starved for value. Over the past 2 weeks, 6 targets for Luke Musgrave, 4 for John Fitzpatrick. Wait, is this the last 2 weeks? No, this is for the full season. This is the last 2 weeks. Sorry, over the last 2 weeks, Luke Musgrave, 2 targets, John Fitzpatrick, 1. So they have not been targeted much, although 37% route participation for Musgrave, 18.5 for Fitzpatrick. But values on a slate where we are lacking values, and Musgrave does actually have some role. So we're just all of these kind of less trustworthy value. You can see I'm getting to way over the field on basically all of them, and I think that's probably how it should be. All right, and then we have the Steelers tight ends, and I'm gonna read off the quotes there. Why I keep bringing up the 4-3 defenses. Get rid of this bot. And this is the reason I keep bringing up the 4-3 defenses that I wanted to know more is Mike Tomlin keeps talking about Darnell Washington with regard to these types of defenses. Let's see. It's been a lot of quotes. I'm just making sure I'm starting at the top. Well, I guess I can start here at on October 7th. On playing heavy personnel groupings against the Vikings, he said, "We have a certain on offense when we play against 4-3 defenses. That's why we drafted Darnell Washington. You can't play 4-3 teams with 250-pound tight ends. There are weight classes in combat sports for a reason. When the edge people are 300 pounds, you better have somebody out there that looks like an animal, that looks like that animal." And he said, as we move into divisional play in the next couple of weeks and we're playing against 2-4-3 defense teams, chances are you're going to see more of what we did against the Vikings. It's unfair at times to ask guys like Pat Fryermuth and Connor Hayward to block 4-3 defensive ends. That's not realistic if you want to have a good run game that day. On the 12th, he said, we've been very transparent about Darnell Washington's role. When we play against 4-3 defenses, we need a guy that looks like those 4-3 defensive ends. It's a major component of our run game. Can't say enough about his efforts. On the 13th, again, he said, this is a note from Greg at Coach Beacon, said, Tomlin labeled Darnell Washington as a big tight end. They play against 4-3 defenses. Jonnu Smith as an oversized yak tight end and Fryermuth as a zone killer. And then he added, Darnell Washington will certainly probably be in a similar position this week in terms of role since we're playing another 4-3 defense. So that was last week. He said, I'll probably have a similar role since we're playing another 4-3 defense. No, what happened to Ant? Please tell me that nothing serious happened to Ant. Supposedly, we're going to see Darnell Washington. Here, let me pull up the game log here. We were supposed to see more Darnell Washington again. Weeks 4 and week 6, 60%, 61% rep participation, down to 37% in week 7, and that's after he had said we're gonna be seeing a lot more of him again against the 4-3 defense. So we saw a big dip for Darnell Washington in that game. We saw more of Fryermuth and Jonnu. So I don't know what to expect based on what Matt is saying. We are hamstring injury. Okay, hopefully not for long. So based on the coach speak, I have not seen anything, indicating that this is going to be a week that they plan on using Darnell Washington again. It seems that they run 4-3 about league average. I don't know if that's like an in-game kind of thing that they changed based on the in-game, because again, last week we saw a pretty big dip for Darnell Washington. I guess still like a lot more than he was running early in the season. But down 1% in that game. And again, we have Calvin Austin. So there are ways, like if they just the Packers defense doesn't run 4-3 as much as the past couple defenses have, we see the roll drop. If Calvin Austin returns and gets back to like running significant routes, unlike the other receivers the past couple weeks, we see potentially a dip for Darnell Washington. So it does feel fairly fragile. A lot of ways it can go wrong, but 3,800 projected for 11% flex ownership, 0% captain ownership. I got to 8.5% Washington in the flex, 1% at captain. So slightly below the field there, which I think I'm fine with. Jonnu would be the safest of the Steelers tight ends. Like he just has a pretty strong role regardless. Projected for 33% flex, 2% captain. I got to 20% flex, 0.5% captain. Fryermuth, 4,000 projected for 12% flex. I got to 8% flex, 1.4% captain, where he's not getting any captain ownership. I think Fryermuth would be my favorite of the group at these ownership numbers and price tags. Like he's projected for about the same ownership as Darnell Washington at just 200 more expensive. And I think he's just like the more like I think he's less dependent on specific defensive schemes. Like I think they would rather play more Pat Fryermuth than Darnell Washington, as he's just the better receiving tight end, as we saw. I think it was last week when he had that big blow up game. So if Fryermuth is not going to get much ownership, he would be my favorite of the 3 tight ends. Jonnu I'll have more of because Jonnu is just more trustworthy, but he's also pretty chalky. So I would guess I'm going to be maybe under the field on Jonnu, over the field on Fryermuth, and about with the field on Darnell Mooney if these ownership numbers are correct. Is kind of where I would like to be. And then I guess Connor Hayward is 600. If you wanna bet on Connor Hayward getting that tight end week touchdown, but just 3% route participation each of the past 2 weeks. That's really just you're hoping for an end zone target, which I mean he seems to get those. Actually, let me look on the season. seems like every year, every showdown slate, it feels like he gets targeted in the end zone. Just one end zone target on this, or no, two on the season though for Connor Hayward. I mean, he runs one route and gets an end zone target, so that's actually a lot for the number of routes that he runs. And then beyond tight ends, kickers. Let me move down the sidebar and get rid of this damn bot. Okay. Kickers and defenses, starting with the kickers, Brandon McManus, projected for 17% ownership, 0% captain. I got to 34 Brandon McManus and none at captain. Boswell projected for 25 and 1. I got to just 6%. I'm going to even this out, get more of Boswell, maybe even out the ownership numbers there. I don't want to take any big stand on one kicker versus the other. Defenses, Packers project for 15%. I got to 11% in the flex, 1% at captain. Steelers project for 7%. I got to 16%, 1% at captain. That looks good to me. Totally fine with those numbers. Who is your favorite GPP captain? I would probably say Josh Jacobs. If you can make a good lineup with him, if it's tough to fit a good lineup around Josh Jacobs, I would just go Tucker Kraft. So it's one of those two, and then DK Metcalf, I think, are my three favorites as far as GPP captains. I think Rodgers, if he does come in at 2%, will look pretty good. Also, thoughts on that with Love, Captain, Kraft, Jacobs, Musgrave, Rodgers, Washington. I think that looks viable. This is for DraftKings. Everything I've done so far is DraftKings. Waylon says the Sims are giving him Havrisik for kicker at Green Bay. Is it McManus? That's a good question. Is mine wrong? Who is the kicker for Green Bay? What does Roto Grinders have? They have McManus. So I believe it is McManus. I had not thought that we had a kicker question here. Okay, everybody say McManus. Okay, good. All right. So I am going to. All right, we got confirmation. It is McManus. First, I'm going to download these lineups, and then I'm going to make some adjustments, rerun the Sims to get more Tucker Kraft. So let's go SimRunner Pro. Just want to make sure I get some lineups in here. So I'm going to download this. All right. Get those in. All right. So let me take a look at my exposures again, see what I might need to change. Man, that's so much Kenneth Gainwell. I think I'm generally happy with my receivers. I would like more Tucker Kraft. So I think that's the one that I see immediately. I know I want more Kraft, and I think I want more Fryermuth. And then even out the kicker. So I need to go give Boswell a little bit of a boost. Okay. So I am going to. How do I get more Kraft here? I mean, I can just take away. I don't really think I need to get any Malik Heath anyway. So I'm just going to take away some of his target share and give it to Kraft. This is the National Tight End Day bump, and I'm going to. Oops, I should smart adjust this. Yeah, I didn't smart adjust early enough, but let's see. Okay, that should work. And then I was getting to way more of McManus than Boswell, right? Yeah, so I'm going to move up Boswell slightly. And I was getting to a ton of Jordan Love captain. Let's see. I think I'm going to give Love a little bit more captain ownership. Move him up to 17%. Jacobs down to 20. Kraft down to 11. Oh, and I want a little bit more Fryermuth also. Maybe I just take that from Keyshawn Williams. And maybe Skowronek. I don't think I need to get to any Skowronek. So I'm going to give that to Fryermuth. All right, I'll try that. By the way, if you haven't already done so, please do like the video. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are not already subscribed. And if you have not checked out Run the Sims yet, you can use the promo code Neil to get 10% off your first payment on any of Run the Sims products. Check it out. All right, Haversick is inactive. Okay, good. I hate Green Bay because there's so many options. I mean, it's like Chiefs Showdown. I feel like that's always the case with like Chiefs, the Bills. There's a lot of these teams where there's just too many options. Green Bay, it's more that way, I think, even than usual because Christian Watson is returning. Yeah, Golden Captain is fairly contrarian, and he does have like big play upside, so I don't hate that. Favorite contrarian play. I mean, Luke Musgrave is fairly contrarian. Kenneth Gainwell is like, depending on where you look, actually, no, he's not. If you look at Run the Sims, he's not contrarian at all. But if you look at Roto Grinders, let's see. Oh, Fryermuth is fairly contrarian, at least based on Roto Grinders. So I would say Fryermuth is up there for me. And that's even regardless of the National Tight End Week. And then if you want to lean into the National Tight End Week narrative, but I don't really think Tomlin or Rodgers are the type to give a shit about National Tight End Week. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? Would either of them care about National Tight End Week? I wouldn't really think so, but I also think like Fryermuth is just a strong play regardless. I mean, they have Gainwell as somewhat. That's where like the ownership is way different on Gainwell, 17% at RG and 42% at Run the Sims. Yeah, it is like in some ways good that you have a lot of options. My favorite slates are the ones where it's like some of it is really easy. Like you just have like 3 players that are like super obvious, or like, 5 or 6 great plays that are just like, yeah, I want to pay up for all these guys. And then you have a couple guys you really like who are cheaper and contrarian. Those are the absolute best slates for me. The ones I've historically done the best on, when I can get a contrarian value option that people are, yeah, and then mix them in with all the good pay up options. This one, it's like there are so many of those like kind of good value options. I don't have a really strong read on like the Steelers tight ends versus Musgrave versus Savion Williams versus Kenneth Gainwell. Like they're all pretty good. None of them there's not one that's like this is my clear favorite play of the slate. Betting on Skowronek first touchdown. I mean, that is I hope you're getting some good odds on that one. I'm guessing you are. All right. So in this updated sim set, I got to first lineup Jordan Love captain with Josh Jacobs and Luke Musgrave. On the ring back has Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, and Kenneth Gainwell. Uses $49,800 of salary. Second lineup, Jordan Love with Luke Musgrave, Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, Tucker Kraft, Jalen Warren bring back. So just a full-on Packers onslaught. Third lineup, another Packers onslaught. Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, has Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren. So we've got double tight end on the Packers, double running back on the Steelers. Leaves 1,400 on the table. That's my kind of lineup right there. Correlates well. Doubling up on positions for multiple teams. Love that. Fourth lineup, we got DK Metcalf in the captain spot with Aaron Rodgers and Kenneth Gainwell. Also has Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs, Luke Musgrave. I think that's a really strong lineup also. Yeah, I think those lineups kind of stand out as looking really good to me. And then in terms of player exposure, starting with quarterbacks, with Jordan Love projected for 57 and 15% ownership, I got to 38% and 24. Aaron Rodgers, 42 and 7. I got to 53 and 17% at captain of Aaron Rodgers. So way over the field there. At running backs, man, I'm light on Josh Jacobs, just 10% captain exposure, 50% flex exposure though for Josh Jacobs. So a lot more at flex. I guess difficult to get there at captain just given his price tag and the lack of value. Jaylen Warren, I got to 46% flex, 5% captain. Kenneth Gainwell, 49% and 3% captain. Emmanuel Wilson, 10% flex, none at captain. Didn't get to any Caleb Johnson or Chris Brooks. Wide receiver still getting to a lot of DK Metcalf, 41% flex, 22% captain. Down to just 17% Dobbs, flex, 2% captain, 12% Golden flex, 0.5% captain, 14% Calvin Austin, 0.5% captain, 8% Savion. Didn't get to any Christian Watson or Roman Wilson or Malik Heath. So I wouldn't mind getting to more Dobbs and Golden, I think are the two that kind of stand out to me that I'd want more of. Tight end, I did get to more of Tucker Kraft now. I'm up to 27% flex, 7% captain. Musgrave still 23.5% flex, 0.5% captain, 6% John Fitzpatrick. So getting, we're leaning in on the narrative here, apparently. Jonnu, 23.5%, 1% captain. Freiermuth, I'm up to 17% flex, 4% captain. Washington, 11 and 1. Kickers, man, I did not move up Boswell enough. Or maybe did I forget to move him up? I'm only getting to 3% Boswell, 29% McManus. Defenses, just 7% Packers, 1% captain, 15% Steelers. So I want to get more Boswell and I think the Packers receivers. So I'm just going to run one more set of the Sims. Anything else I want to change? Golden and Dobbs. Wouldn't mind getting into more Jacobs at captain either. Okay. And then more Boswell. All right. I'm going to move Boswell up to 9. Oh, I've also got him in a huge ownership projection. That's what I really need to change. I'm going to bring him back down to 8.8. And then bring the ownership projection for Boswell down to 20%. And then Dobbs and Golden. Bring down the ownership slightly here also. What do they have it at Roto-Grinders? 30% Dobbs, 26% Golden. Let's try that. And then give some ownership to, I think these numbers might not be accurate. The numbers showing there. Steelers up to 10%. I don't know. I'm going to normalize and see what happens there. I'm going to bring Love up to 19%, Jacobs down to 18%. I was also getting to a ton of Rodgers at 7%. Okay. I'll try it. I'm getting way more Gainwell than Darnell Washington. I think Gainwell more likely to keep up his role. Washington, I think, a little bit going to be like game script or matchup dependent based on the coach speak. That's my read. Yeah, DDFS Gaming says, I like playing single entry. I'm picking between Jonnu, Fryermuth, Washington is going to cause me so much pain. One of them is getting a touchdown, maybe two of them. It was all three of them the last game, I believe, in that last showdown slate. I think all three of them scored touchdowns. Right? And Fryermuth scored two of them, including a really long one. That was one I feel like it was like could have been a pretty great slate. A lot went right. I did not have any Fryermuth at captain. I feel like I was close on something, but needed Fryermuth at captain to win that one. Yeah, absolutely. I would play Warren and Gainwell together. No issue with it. Calculating payouts. We're getting there. So did CeeDee Lamb do anything toward the end of the game? I'm very curious about how the end of that game. I mean, I know they took out their starters at some point, so that's not very promising. I'm looking it up. And RJ Harvey, third touchdown. I mean, things you love to see. J.K. Dobbins got 111 yards on 15 carries. He could have been such a great play. I liked him so much for DFS, and it could have worked out so well if he just got some of those touchdowns. Jalen Tolbert scored a touchdown. Okay. Oh, with Joe Milton. Okay. So that was I see what happened. So 5-yard receiving touchdown for Harvey. Okay. Fun. And then they took out the starters. So Dak probably did not really do anything for me. Oh, an interception. Or CeeDee had an 18-yard reception. I think I had seen that. That's right. I had seen up until the interception, and I just didn't see after that. Got it. So yeah, I don't think CeeDee did anything for me for my my eliminator team. Yeah, leaving at 1.1K. I mean, it's not about single entry so much as like how big is the field that you're playing in. If it's, I don't know, 2,000 or more, and you really like your lineup, I think that's fine to leave 1,100. Let's see. How much Warren and Gainwell? I'm getting to 41% Warren in the flex, 7% at captain, 49% Gainwell in the flex, 1% at captain. So I'm getting to a ton of Warren and Gainwell. It scares me a little bit because I actually think the Packers defense, like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it because they looked so good early in the season, and I'm just waiting for that other shoe to drop and that defense to come back where it's just like oh yeah, they can't actually move the ball at all on the Packers on the ground. But this is what I'm getting. I'm gonna accept this much of the running backs here. How much do you want to pair the two? I don't know how much I'm getting. How much would I want to pair them? Like probably based on these numbers, I'm probably getting to a lot of both of them together. It's probably, I don't know, 10, 15% of my lineups. I would guess I have them together, maybe more based on I don't know. Yeah. So I think a fair amount. I think in a 20 lineup set, I might have 3 lineups that have them together, something like that. But yeah, let's take a look at my exposures. Am I happy with this? I'm still getting to 20. I'm getting to 25% Jordan Love at captain now, 19% Aaron Rodgers, 50% in the flex of Rodgers, 37% for Love. So pretty high number of the quarterbacks. I'm just getting to 7.5% Jacobs at captain. I might try to filter this to get more Jacobs, filter out some of the others. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the filters to try to get less of the quarterbacks and more of Josh Jacobs. I'm still at just 13%, 14% Matthew Golden, 22.5% Dobbs. At least it's more than I was getting before. 8% Savion looks okay. Tight ends, I'm getting to up to just 5% Kraft at captain. I want more of that. So yeah, I think I'm going to use the filter to try to get less of the quarterbacks at captain and hope that then I get more of Josh Jacobs and Tucker Kraft. Let me try that one. I'm not getting much of the defenses. Okay, so I'm going to go to graded lineups. And then, all right, so I'm going to use filters. Maximum contains captain. I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers, 12%. Jordan Love, 12%. Do I want to limit how much Kenneth Gainwell I'm getting? Is another question. I might. Because I'm getting to so much, I wouldn't mind just being at like 32% Gainwell on the flex and see what that does. All right, I'm going to try that. I'm just going to send 2,000 lineups to Portfolio Optimizer. Do I want to make any other changes before I do this? I think that's probably good. Maybe I'll also set a limit on DK because I'm worried this is all just going to go to DK Metcalf. So I'm going to set a max of 20% DK Metcalf at captain. Maybe I'll try that. And maybe Warren also. I'll just try this. Let me see what this does. Lowest punt play for single entry. The lowest price. I mean, you can definitely go to Musgrave, who's 1,600. That might be it. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of some of these bots. There are a lot. I think I forgot to put on a timer to get into chat. Let me take a look at the other punt plays, see if there's anything lower than 1,600 that I would get to. I mean, I think Fitzpatrick is viable. I guess Connor Hayward would maybe be like Connor Hayward's probably the lowest I would get to at 600 if you like really wanted to go there. But Musgrave, I feel better about than Connor Hayward. He's running like 40% of the routes as opposed to 3% for Connor Hayward. So Musgrave would be like most likely the lowest that I would go to in single entry. But if you like need a really, really cheap player, I think Connor Hayward is viable at 600. Any FanDuel insights? Yeah, let me look. I've got a few more minutes, so I'll just look real quick. Just have to remember to get those lineups in. MVP. I mean, Jacobs is a really tough price tag here for a slate lacking value. I think Kraft looks really good at 9%. At MVP. Yeah, Kraft, I guess, stands out to me as an MVP. Golden looks pretty good on FanDuel. I just like hope for that big play. Or actually, Metcalf looks really good also. But Golden has a nice price tag also. So I think Kraft, Golden, Metcalf look like pretty strong MVP options. And of course, you can always go to Rodgers, just 8% is not too bad for FanDuel. I kind of like that. Jacobs, if you can get there, looks good. And then at Flex, I mean, this is way too low of ownership on Jacobs, so if you can get him in your lineups, he's just really expensive, so I guess that's why it's tough to get there, but if you can fit him in your lineups, obviously Jacobs looks great. Kraft, more manageable, also a really strong play. Also projected for just 14% ownership at 10,000. Metcalf, 17%. So all of these pay ups look pretty good. I think to get there, you could try Darnell Washington again and kind of wide range of outcomes there. Man, Freiermuth way more expensive here. That's tougher. Luke Musgrave, again, you can get to as like a way to get to the more expensive options. Again, he looks great. Washington looks okay. It is tough. We don't have a ton of value here. Jonnu at 5,400 is a pretty nice value on FanDuel. Actually, Calvin Austin, 4,800 looks better on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings. Can obviously go to the kickers here also. Yeah. Let me take a look at my. Okay, this is done. Let me download these. Player exposures. So with those caps, I'm now getting to 12% each of Love and Rodgers at captain. Now I'm up to 15% Jacobs. That looks better. 20% Metcalf. I'm getting more Kraft. Still just 8% Kraft at captain, which I don't love, but I'm going to accept it at this point because I don't have any more time. So let me download these lineups. Get them in. We're going to win some money tonight. Reminder that you can get a Flannelverse hat if you win $1,000 or more. Use the Flannelverse avatar. Give a shout on social media to myself or Mathology or Flannelversity on X. Send me your address and I will send you a Flannelverse hat. I do international shipping, but I resent you if I have to send it international. More so, I resent the post office for making it such a pain in the ass. I actually sent one to Tom Strachan. It was like I have to put 3 different labels on this damn thing. What's going on here? It's the dumbest thing. I don't remember that being the case 20 years ago. Maybe it was. Oh, look at you. Go AZ Cards. Appreciate you, man. Gifted 5 memberships. Hopefully some of you got those memberships. You can get in. By the way, the Flaniverse Discord is free to join. There is also some Discords that you can join if you are a member of the YouTube channel. Extra Discord channels. Not the most active, but you can join them if you link your YouTube account to your Discord. You can join those as well. But appreciate you. Go easy. Go AZ Cards. Very cool. Very cool. Guy going to the Dog Bowl, which so far doesn't look like I'm going to be joining you there. Wish I could join you at the Dog Bowl, but not looking like I'm getting in. Got a few more weeks though, so hopefully I can meet Charles there. But appreciate you, Charles. Appreciate everybody else here as well. Thank you for keeping me company. Hopefully one of us, maybe multiple of us will win a lot of money tonight. Always the goal. I will, of course, be back tomorrow with Adam in the afternoon and in the evening prior to lock to break down Monday Night Football, Commanders, and Chiefs as well. But I'm going to get out of here, get some dinner. Thanks, everybody. Good luck tonight. See you in Discord.